So, if you've been struggling with sleep at the moment, I know how much that sucks, but if you can change your sleep. So, listen on to this fun conversation I had with my sleep coach, Elina Winnel, to discover the real reason I had insomnia last year and what we did to heal my sleep. So, welcome, Elina, to Joyful Eating. So good to have a sleep expert on the podcast. So, let's start by I'd really love you to share your story on, like, you're a sleep coach now, but your journey of becoming a sleep coach. Like, how did you get there?
Great. Well, hi, Jules, and really happy to be here with you and your beautiful audience. So my journey to becoming a sleep coach was actually a very painful one, and one that came out of a period of really chronic insomnia and sleeplessness. So it's a journey I really understand for anyone who's listening who, is struggling with sleep. I really understand the struggle that goes along with it. So I was working in the corporate world, a lot, high stress role, and a lot of stress in my life at the time. And a few things happened, and I started to develop really chronic insomnia and sleep struggles. And it got so bad. It really got to the point where I had to either resolve it or, probably it was going to be the end of me, to be honest. And so I quit my job and I went and studied anything and everything that helped me with my sleep. And part of the reason for that was I went down all the conventional paths to resolve my sleep issues, and I didn't get solutions. I didn't get answers.
Yeah,
And so
right.
I had to find something that actually worked. At the time, it destroyed my relationship, my finances, my health, everything. Anyway, so I was determined to find answers. And so coming through the other end, I decided this is something that I really want to help other people with. I didn't want other people to go through the same struggle that I went through that nearly destroyed my life. Um, and there is a solution to sleeping well. It's just that we're not taught about it. And you probably know a similar thing with the work you do, around food. And it's so important to get those messages out and help share truth around these topics. So that's why I do
Yeah.
what I do, and I love it. And I help so many people with their sleep. It's beautiful.
Yay. Yay. So great. So tell me, like, in that journey, so like so you tried the conventional things.
Mm.
So what like what was the first glimmer of hope that you had when you were like finding the solution?
Yeah. So uh, I remember I was working with someone who actually, and I hope this doesn't sound too woo-woo for anyone, but I was working with someone who did some work on my brain waves. And I had been in such a worked up state, my brain had forgotten how to switch off. And she did some work. And I remember it was the first night in years that I actually got natural sleep. I got 4 hours of sleep and I was over the moon. It was the best night of my life. Honestly, it was
4 hours. Oh my
so
goodness.
so anyway, so that was a turning point, and it really made me start to question those more conventional ways, because no one had talked to me about brainwaves before. What are brainwaves? So
Yeah.
I started learning about that. I started learning about the nervous system, and you and I would have talked about that. Really, sleep comes down to one of the most important things is having a well-balanced nervous system. And I have to say that and not to denigrate the medical profession, but not a single doctor or specialist had even mentioned the word nervous system to me.
Yeah,
So,
right.
yeah, so a few people had said, why don't you try meditating? My brain was going so quickly that meditating just went even faster. It wasn't
So it
helping.
wasn't an option, right? So
No.
for someone that doesn't really understand or hasn't heard, has someone who is listening who hasn't heard the term nervous system and doesn't know what that's about, do you want to maybe just do a um, quick high
Yeah.
level what the nervous system is and how that
Yeah.
impacts sleep, please?
Yeah, so specifically, I'm referring to the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system regulates the automatic functions of our body. So our breathing, our heart rate, those things we don't think about that we do. And so if we're in a really wired state, we're sympathetically activated. So what that means is we might have a high heart rate. We might be breathing high and fast. We might be sweating a lot, like all these things we don't even
Feeling
know.
stressed. Yeah.
From stress, from anxiety, from trauma, that we get stuck in these states, or we're in them too often, and most of society's in that state too often. Now, the flip side, the other side, because the autonomic nervous system, you've got your sympathetic branch, which is like the stress or anxiety response, the fight-flight response. You've also got the rest and digest function, the parasympathetic response, and that's responsible for our sleep and our digestion. The functions that we do when we're in that regenerative mode, when the body is healing, recovering. And that's the state that most people aren't in often enough, and the body often has forgotten how to get into that state. So we work on really boosting that system, reminding ourselves how to get into that system, and we need to know how to truly deeply relax to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not about just wearing blue light blocking glasses before we go to sleep.
So this is a really important message that to get
Yeah, should we
across.
talk about the mistakes that people make? Yeah.
Yeah, or the myths around
The
sleep. So
myths, yeah.
most people believe it's that hour or two before bed that determines the quality of your sleep, and it's just not true. I mean, sure, it has an impact, but really it's our whole daytime. So a good quality day will lead to a good quality of sleep at night. So we want to have our nervous system in balance during the day so that we sleep well. So myth number one, it's not about that an hour or two before bed. That's just not true. It's about our daytime.
The whole day.
The whole day, yeah. It's not just about cutting out coffee, even though that can be helpful. It's about, coffee just activates our sympathetic nervous system even more, but it's only one of so many factors. So sure, it can help, but again, that's another sort of myth where, if you cut out coffee, you're going to sleep better. I mentioned another myth could be something like, if you meditate, you'll sleep better. And you might, if you're the type of person who's able to actually switch your brain off when you meditate. But you may not be that type of person. You may need to do other things to help you to switch off and relax. There's a lot of myths out there around sleep. Sleeping tablets that, if you can't sleep, just take sleeping tablets. Short term, your doctor might prescribe them for the short term, but long term, your body is forgetting how to sleep naturally when you're on them. And most sleeping tablets also just make you go unconscious as opposed to actually.
Yes, you don't actually go through this, get the benefits of.
You're not going through the regenerative phase that the reason we sleep is for that. So you're not actually getting into that state. So you might feel a bit better, but you're not really getting the healing and the regeneration that your body needs. And hey, us ladies, we like to get our regeneration. I mean, it's no coincidence that they call it beauty sleep,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So there are a few of the myths. You might know, you might be able to think of a few more, Jules, that, things you used to believe about sleep before doing the sleep program and discovering actually, there's more to sleep than what you've been told.
Yeah, for sure. I was believing all those myths, and I'd like cut out caffeine, and I was really diligent with my blue light before bed and having a good bedtime routine. And it wasn't like it was still a struggle. Like I was still having this problem. So yeah.
And today, most people, from a very young age, we're not taught to connect to our bodies, to connect to our nervous system, to know what's going on with us. So people are often unaware of their stress levels, or they're unaware of their anxiety levels, or they're unaware of the impact of past trauma on their sleep. So part of it is really starting to reconnect to ourselves, which can be a little confronting at first, but it's so important. Yeah.
So I guess let's talk about like that process of how do you go from, if you are having sleep problems, to getting like reconnecting with yourself and changing your nervous system so that you are able to access good sleep.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So we do stress on multiple levels. So we can do it physically, mentally, energetically, emotionally. So it's important to address all of those areas. So one area I would encourage people to start to look at is how they think and what thought patterns are creating stress for them. So
Okay, do
we've
you want to
talked,
share mine?
yeah, why don't you share yours? Yeah. I mean,
Um, no,
one of
you explain it.
Well, what I recollect with you is one of the things that really drove you was your achievement drive and how you would get your value based on your achievements, as opposed to actually getting your value from knowing that you have intrinsic self-worth and intrinsic self-value. So it's just there, as opposed to needing to prove it to people in the outside world and like make marks on the world, and just making that shift, seemed to be a big thing for you. And then that, once you really get that, helps your stress levels come down, right? So maybe you can share
Yeah,
your experience a little bit around that.
exactly. Yeah. So this was the thing that really changed everything for me with working with Elina, was that I used to put all this pressure on myself to achieve my goals because I thought that in order to be a worthy human, I had to be achieving stuff. And it wasn't until I worked with Elena that she actually shone that light on it for me. And the fascinating thing that like, and that was in our first session. The fascinating thing to me was that everybody else in the world, I didn't have this standard for. Like it was only for me that I had to achieve goals to be worthy. Whereas like everyone else, like it was, I could see them as worthy beings exactly as they were, but I didn't give myself that permission, which was like such a big thing to uncover. And like, and so that was driving all my stress. Basically, was this desire to achieve. And so when I wasn't achieving my goals, I was not valuing myself as a person, and that was creating more stress. And of course, that you can imagine that impact that had on my sleep. And at the time, I'm like also going through like, 51, some hormone stuff going on. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it's just the hormones, like, and blaming, actually, and that's probably another myth. Hey, it's like, I was just thinking, oh, it's just my hormones out of whack and I'd get them under control, then I'll be fine. But it was actually that stress I was putting on myself from the achievement thing. So, and it's mad, like just Elena showing me that and also helping me see how that was having such a negative impact on my life helped me to decide to almost, it wasn't like I completely just switched it off overnight, but over the time that we worked together, I was able to reprogram that. So it didn't take that, like it was only a couple of months before I was able to change my worldview on that. So yeah, I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for doing that work. And that's
uh,
what's enabled me to get to a really great place with my sleep where I'm like I'm sleeping better than I ever have before, just from having like uncovering that thought error and that faulty belief system that I was operating from. So
yeah. And you said
yeah.
your sleep scores in the high 80s now, so well done, Jules. And it's
Yay.
amazing. So it's amazing how most of us have one key area that really controls us without us realizing it's outside of our awareness. It's usually unconscious. And so just, having a light shone upon that can change so much around our stress, our anxiety. And you can see how understanding that is so different from, oh, just, have a nice hot bath before you go to bed and that'll fix your sleep. I mean, come on. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so different. But
And I also want to point out that this is like it's all subconscious beliefs that we have. And so it's really hard to uncover those on your own. And I don't think if I had have been, even if I hadn't had a thought to look there myself, I don't think I would have been able to see that. Like it was a total blind spot for me. And that's where working with, like, I'm such a big believer in coaching and working with coaches is because it's easy, so easy. It would have been so easy for you to go, hey, Jules, like, and spot that and point it out to me. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100% that so we can't see ourselves objectively. We can't, because we are ourselves, right? So
Yeah.
having someone be able to hold up a mirror and reflect back what we can't see is so helpful and can help us transform things like sleep so much faster. So yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate that you were so open and so you're incredible in terms of how quick you adopt change. So hats off to you. So that's one of the elements, is changing the way we think, really starting to understand those blind spots that create that where we create stress for ourselves, and then shifting that. And like you've said, you can only shift it when you know it's there. So having that mirror held up is so helpful. So that's mental stress or anxiety, which affects the nervous system. Then we've got emotional, like, do people let certain emotions affect them on a regular basis? Usually people have emotional signatures as well, whether it's anxiety, grief, people will have sort of dominant emotions that kind of affect their nervous system. So uncovering some of that can be really helpful. And really learning how to release emotions that don't affect the nervous system as much anymore. Then there's, so we've talked about mental, emotional, energetic. Yes, we do live in a world of 5G and all these.
Yeah.
And look, all of this does have an impact on our sleep. So we need to be conscious of that and do certain things in our environment to mitigate that, and also manage our own energetic system as well. So that's a factor. And then, of course, there's the physical element. So you would know, as someone who works with food, how important our diet is. And there's various physical elements that will impact our sleep as well. So it's important to look at all of those, because we are a whole system. We're not one element on its own, and all of those things affect each other and they affect our sleep. And really, sleep is a symptom. If people's sleep is off, it means your nervous system's out of balance. If your nervous system is out of balance, you are not healing as well, you are not regenerating as well, you probably aren't digesting as well. It's that whole package. And so it's really important to deal with the root cause, right? So once you deal with the root cause of why you're not sleeping, you're also dealing with the root cause of, all the other things I just mentioned, typically.
Yeah.
And so your overall health and well-being just starts to skyrocket after those root causes are addressed.
Yeah, so true. Hey, like, and it's like, yeah. Actually, I'm curious, Elena, like in terms of like the food piece and timing of meals, like, as you know how they say you're not meant to eat before bed, like what are your thoughts on that? Like,
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because, well, for a few reasons these days. So one is we really shouldn't eat, say, within 3 hours of bedtime, because you want your body to have finished digesting your food when you go to sleep.
yeah,
Then your body can focus on doing what it's meant to do when it sleeps. So that means like detoxing, repairing, the cells and the muscles and all of those kinds of things. So that's important. But also these days, what is happening is, because people, it's very common for people to have digestive issues these days with all the toxins in our society. And
and then
so
stress as well.
and exactly, and stress as well. So now you've got a double impact. If you eat close to bedtime, your nervous system will be even more out of balance if you've got digestive issues, because that will, and if anyone measures their HRV, they'll be able to see it. You'll see how your digestion affects your heart rate variability score, not your heart rate, but your heart rate variability, which is a measure of how imbalanced your nervous system is. You notice if that starts to drop when you eat, you may well have digestive issues. Now, then that will flow on to affecting your sleep. It's because if you've got digestive issues, it affects your nervous system, which will then affect your sleep. So we've kind of got this double whammy now of if you eat close to bedtime and you've got digestive issues, it's going to have a double impact on your sleep. So definitely keep food, the more consistent you can be, the better, and definitely not within 3 hours of bedtime. And also drinking fluids we need to be conscious of. You don't want to be going to the bathroom a lot during night, so you just want to have that in moderation. I suggest not drinking 2 hours before bed. I know some people like to have a cup of tea, but if you can minimize it, have it at least 2 hours before, so you don't wake up to go to the bathroom. But again, see, there's another myth. People will wake up to go to the bathroom and they say, oh, I must have drunk too much. And that could be true. But also when people's nervous systems are out of balance, say, for example, someone has a lot of anxiety, they're more likely to go to the bathroom, because when we're anxious or we're in that wired state, what happens is our bladder relaxes. So that means we have an urge to go to the bathroom. So, if anyone's listening and they need to go to the bathroom a lot at night, don't think it's just because you're drinking a lot. It may well be because you're anxious or something like that, and that's triggering your bladder. So it's, again, important to work with the root cause of that. I have people tell me all kinds of things. My doctor said I have a small bladder. And then, they'll go to the bathroom 10 times a night. And then after we've worked together, they don't go to the bathroom at all. So, it's like, is that really true? Have you got a picture of it?
Yeah. Comparing bladder size. Yeah.
Yes, it's really
Amazing.
important to understand the root cause. And in our society today, we are taught to manage symptoms rather than actually look at the root cause.
Yeah. And actually, I really love that idea of seeing sleep, like, or problems with sleep. It's just a symptom of something else that's not working. And actually, so I actually see now my insomnia from last year as a massive gift, because that's probably, I wouldn't have done anything about it if I didn't have the problem with my sleep. But being able to, because I had that symptom, and then I worked with you to understand the root cause, like, that's so, like, set me up for a much better life, not way beyond just the sleep part, like, just, and the benefits to getting that change in my life have been like such a gift. Like, so yeah, I love being able to see the gift in the problem. So if you're in the, oh my goodness, I'm not sleeping away, like, this is really awful, just know that it's just a symptom of something, and it's actually great because it's forcing you to make a change.
Yeah. So it is important to choose to change. Don't feel helpless. These things can be resolved. When I went through my struggle, I was like, I'm not finding an answer. Like, I wondered if I would ever find a solution. I just really want to encourage people to know there are solutions out there. So don't think you're stuck with it. That's another myth that, I'm a poor sleeper because my parents were, and I'm going to have this forever. No, it's just not true. It's very rarely is it actually a genetic thing. That's almost unheard of, So
yeah, great.
It's conditioning that's passed down, and you can change your conditioning. So no one's, don't be a victim. You can change this. It's always
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to say also, you said you got a lot of other benefits from working on the root causes and fixing your sleep. And one of the things that shifted a lot for you was your heart rate variability. Now, what people won't realize, so that's again measuring how imbalanced your nervous system is, from your score going up so much, which means it's more in balance, means you will live longer. I mean, it's just incredible.
Do you want to, because I hadn't heard that either. Do you want to share a bit about that, with like the link between longevity and heart rate variability?
Yeah, so in the medical community, a lot of doctors will use it as a predictor of how long you will live. So, the more in balance our nervous system is, the longer we live. So basically, by your score going up, as a predictor of your lifespan, it means you will live longer. You might have added 10 years to your life. Now, come on, that's not bad for over an 8-week period.
That's pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's a good point. It's like, I worked with Elina for 8 weeks. Like, yeah, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. So, it's taking care of yourself, really. And yeah, really fixing that root cause just can transform your entire life. So, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to work with you, if they were like, yep, I'm ready to go do some deep work and really fix this sleep thing once and for all, what's the best way for them to get to know you better, Elina?
Yeah, so I'd be happy to offer a free initial consultation with your listeners. So we can pop the link below if that works for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so they can come. My website is thesleepexpert.com. So you can also find me there. I think on socials, it's the.sleep.expert. But yeah, so I encourage people, if they actually want to find out more, just click on the link that will pop down there, have a free consult, find out if it's something that resonates with you, because you can change your sleep and it's life-changing. But yeah, so
Oh
that
my
would be...
goodness, it's the best. Yeah. Yeah.
You're amazing, Jules. You sort of you're very courageous. You dive in, you go for it, and it's beautiful. You're so open and so
Mm.
um
Yeah,
uh
but you don't have to be courageous to work with you, Elena. Like I found like you created such a like a safe container to do the work. So it wasn't, I didn't ever feel like I was doing anything extraordinary. Like it just, I can think that like, and having just someone's eyes on it who knows so much about sleep and who has struggled themselves is just, it just is so helpful. So yeah,
yeah.
I can't recommend your work enough. Like I want everyone to know.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jules. Yeah, and I'm so glad
Yeah.
it's changed your life. Yeah.
So before we wrap up, Elena, is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to mention about sleep? Anything?
So I just encourage people, yeah, to look beyond the surface. Don't just look at the symptoms, or don't just work with sleep hygiene. Go deeper. Um, a few things to start with. We were chatting before the podcast,
Yeah.
Jules. Is one step people can make straight away is just to make a decision. Are you actually going to prioritize your sleep? Because life is a series of choices, yeah, and we often unconsciously are not choosing our sleep. Right, we can think, yeah, I want to sleep well, but we've got a whole lot of things above that on the priority list. And not to say you can't have it all. Of course you can sleep well, which actually means you're more productive during the day, but the way we're conditioned is to think, well, I need to do all these tasks, and then sleep sort of comes underneath it. So there's a choice. Do you want to fold up your washing at night at 10 p.m. or do you actually go, no, you know what? I'm going to relax and I'm going to go to bed and I'll do it tomorrow. So one step might be making a decision. And it's fine
A
if
tiny
that's
step.
the
Yeah.
choice. Yeah. So if that's not the choice, that's fine. But, just own that then. But if it is a choice, then, do something about it. And then, I can give a few tips for things people can start trying straight away if you'd.
Absolutely. Yeah. Please do.
Yeah. Okay. So this may sound a little funny, but I often encourage people in bed to have a smile on their face. And it's only because if you're someone who worries a lot, and you may not even realize, but if you're stressed or anxious, you can't worry as much when you're smiling. So having a hint of a smile on your face can be just helpful. Another thing is to really start to become aware of your breathing. And when
Yeah.
we
We
are
did a lot of work on that, didn't we?
yeah, because a lot of people think that they're breathing just fine, but actually they're breathing high and fast from the chest. So now, again, the breathing's a symptom. It's not the root cause, but it is helpful to take a few deep breaths every day during the day. And if you're lying in bed and you notice you're breathing high and fast, slow your breathing down, drop it down. And another thing, so just a third thing, is to really start to come into the sensations of the body at nighttime, because we can spend so much time in our head thinking. We're lying there, why aren't I falling asleep? Well, of course, if you're staying in your busy brain, it's going to be quite difficult. So one way to start to switch off is by coming into the sensations of the body. And look, it's a practice. It can take a while to build up that skill. And people often think they're in their body when they're not. But that's another thing people can start to work on. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming and being on Joyful Eating, being the first sleep expert on Joyful Eating. Elena, I
Oh,
really
such a
appreciate you.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Such a pleasure. Well, if people are eating well and sleeping well, how healthy will they
Exactly. What
Yeah,
else do we
amazing.
need?
Amazing. Great. Well, thank you, Jules. Such a
Oh.
pleasure.
So if you're struggling with sleep at the moment, I can't recommend Elena enough. Like the work that I did with her has had obviously a huge impact on my sleep. Like I almost can't believe that I'm at the stage where I am now. And also like there's been so many other knock-on effects in other areas of my life. So if you're struggling with sleep, seriously, reach out to Elena. You'll be in very good hands. So yeah, to book a free session, just go to her website, which is thesleepexpert.com, or check out the links in the show note. Okay, I'll catch you next week.